hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
I have so many questions for both of you, and I don't even know where to start.
That sounds
Uh,
scary.
um, I'll go with one for each of you. Each ask you your own question, and then I'll go into the open questions. So, Guillaume, what are some ways that you've contributed to Vue?
Yeah, that's a good question. So initially, I started working on integration between Meteor.js and Vue.js, and that's how I I started in open source basically. Um, so at that time, I was at work. I needed to create web applications, and I checked out some, frameworks on libraries and stuff, and I really liked both Meteor and Vue.js at that time, and and since there was no real integration back then, I started creating one and then open sourced it, and then so I got started into contributing to the Vue ecosystem, and then released uh, different libraries such as Vitotip at that time, which is now Floating View, and um, Vue Virtual Scroller and stuff like that, and then more official projects such as the Vue DevTools and Vue Apollo, and, and also contributed to Vue CLI.
The
But
UI.
yeah, outside of those big projects, I also did some. I mean, there are always some opportunities in every corner of the ecosystem to contribute to, um, and and I try to not hesitate to open PRs to other, you know, libraries, and like the Volar library, or even like GraphQL libraries, which are not directly related to you, but it helps with the whole ecosystem thing. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Nutshell, you've done a ton. All right. Next question, Eduardo. Can you share your preferred testing practices and frameworks for ensuring high quality and reusable Vue components?
So when it comes to frameworks, I usually just go with Vitest nowadays and what comes with it. So expect and the spy mechanism that they have in place. If I need to go further, so for example, some components are very related to the browser. I haven't done much lately to be like up to date into the new trends, but I think some of the solutions I've used are Nightwatch. This is nice when you have to support all browsers. Well, Cypress is really nice too with the UI, and I haven't tested Playwright, but it seems to be nice also for components that are very tied to the browser environment. So it can be interactions that are difficult or not useful really to mock on a unit test or integration test, doesn't matter, but on a virtual, like running on Node environment. And otherwise, if there is no browser specific behavior, I would just run it in virtual DOM environment like Happy DOM or GS DOM on Vitest. And for practices, I personally like TDD. So as soon as I have something more or less working, a minimal version, I will start adding a few tests, and then I will start adding tests for the new features and implementing them as I get further and further with the component or library or composables.
All right.
Otherwise, the question is a little open-ended, but without
Yeah,
going
it
too
is.
far, I
It
think that's good enough.
is. No, I think that's one of the fun things about the Q&As and doing the panels is you can take the question in different directions. And I find that very insightful. All right. question for both or either of you. Will composition and option APIs continue to coexist in the future, or do they have any plans of deprecating options API?
There's no plan to deprecate option API. so I guess that answers the question. They will like stay. They are here to stay, and both of them have uh, great positives and some drawbacks. So I guess they are pretty much complementary to each other.
Yeah, I would add that when it comes to teaching, for example, and I think that, Vue evolved alongside other trends like TypeScript, and the options API, for example, doesn't always place nicely with TypeScript, especially when you want to extend the existing functionalities. And the way you work with options API when you group by type, I think it works well for people who are beginners because it's easier to, when you're starting, my experience is that people organize by type rather than organize by whatever you want, usually by business. But the composition API, because it's a bit more free, you can do things a bit more freely. It's easier for people with less experience to also mess up, which is something that I think we see now in questions in Discord. But it does allow you to go much further compared to the options API. So because of that, I think it's nice that we have both, even if the options API is like historical in a way. I think it still has its value today because when you teach Vue, it's so much easier to teach to some people, depending on their background, based on options and say, oh, so here you put all the data, here have methods that you use to manipulate the data and use these to access everything. It seems so much more natural for some people to start there, and the composition API can come afterwards. And some other people are experienced enough to just start right away with the composition API and get the full power of composition API, which really can go really, really much further than options API in so many places.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I feel like my next two questions kind of go into each other, but I will start with this one. At what point do you think the Vue team will consider a new major release like Vue 4?
I think you should ask Evan for that one.
Yeah, I guess.
we did talk at some point of, we might have thoughts or some messages in the chat or in person about it, but I cannot remember if there was something like major feature.
I guess
is difficult
if
to answer.
if we really want to make some breaking changes, I guess we will follow same there and like update the major version. But at this point, we don't have any immediate plan to bring any breaking changes into the core. So I guess it's to be determined. If the
And also, if there are breaking changes,
it's a case of if we ever need to, well, we might consider it basically.
and it will definitely be different from Vue 2 to Vue 3, which is a little bit harder to migrate. I think it's one of the lessons learned from the team, that having a better path for migration that allows you to have a deprecation first and then update.
That and why I said these questions are kind of to kind of go together is what makes something like an enhancement or changes that doesn't create a new version or a major release. So are there changes? And
yeah, I mean, to go back to the previous version, to add context to this one, I guess one of the big and most important architectural change we made for Vue 3 was to make it easier to actually add new features without bloating the framework and because for every new feature we need to consider if there's any impact on the size of the Vue core library, or its API surface, and if it makes it more difficult to learn and stuff like that. So there's a lot of consideration that goes into any new feature. And but yeah, there's even if we don't bump the major version of the core library, that doesn't mean that we're not adding new features. So for example, in 3.3 we added define model, and we stabilized it in 3.4, and we're still working on improving suspense and server-side rendering related feature and behaviors of Vue. But I think a lot of people are talking about Vapor mode, which is really exciting, because it's going to be a pretty big feature, but we see it as a completely additional and optional, and it's basically telling the Vue compiler in your project to treat certain components as Vapor mode components, basically, and compile them differently. But in practice, you won't see any difference in your development experience. It will be the exact same Vue APIs and stuff like that. It will only bring benefits to the user experience in your application if you can switch components to Vapor mode and make them basically faster by passing the virtual DOM. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one, to be honest.
Yay. And I don't know if this question, like, it kind of leads into it, but not of, do you have any new projects coming up that you would like to share with us? But I'm like, Vapor mode, is that considered a project? You know, because that's exciting.
Yeah, I guess I even probably talked about it already, and it's not directly Eduardo nor me working on
It's
it.
Kevin,
yeah,
mostly, I think.
it's heavy. Yeah. So yeah,
Another
I mean,
team.
I definitely have some things cooking up, and actually that's a nice question, because last year, in retrospective, I really had a very difficult year in terms of finding time to do open source, and I guess it shows, especially for the dev tools, for example. But yeah, I really want, and I'm really trying to like go back into open source this year, and like update libraries and release things that I've been working on for quite some time. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about the new Vue dev tools being worked on by WebFronts. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but yeah, it's basically very inspired by the work made by Antfu on the Nuxt dev tools, which are awesome. And on my part, I'm actually working on something which would standardize those dev tools and make them compatible with each other, basically, and with also other dev tools. But I might talk about that in, like, for example, in Vue.js.
On my side, I do have. So for me, the past year has been very difficult in time as well. Maybe for the same reasons, Guillaume, I'm not sure. Maybe for me, it's the baby.
Yeah, you got baby.
Moving a lot of the sleep. So a lot of the time going away. But so I'm getting slowly back to speed on some of the projects I have that have been there for a year now, which are the data loaders. So Vue router data loaders. There is an RFC, and there is a type routes, and everything comes together in one plugin that can be used for Vite, Webpack, Rollup, etc. So you have types routes on one side, and also on the other side you have what we call loaders. So you have a way to create asynchronous state management that is connected to the navigation cycle. So this is really exciting because it removes all of the inconvenience of suspense when you do data fetching with suspense. I think suspense is not the good solution for data fetching in Vue, at least. Maybe it was in React, but I don't think the way Vue works makes suspense a good solution for data fetching. So these aligns with also future APIs like the navigation API, and it creates a very flexible way of having a data fetching that is deduped and it is synchronized with the navigation, and you can easily extend it, so integrate with other libraries that, so any asynchronous state, so anything like VueFire, VueApollo, VueQuery, etc. So I was hoping to be able to release these before, not release it, but have an updated RFC with a working demo last year, but I wasn't able to. So hoping to get a new one in the coming months. But I think it's really exciting to have this like very tiny API that really improves and standardize the data fetching for Vue applications.
Thank you. All right. So next question is, when will the Vue CLI maintenance mode end?
That's a good question. So currently, I think Sodat is in charge of maintaining Vue CLI, but is also very busy working on both Create Vue app and the Vue Core maintainability. Meaning like is working on a lot of maintenance and processes and new GitHub actions to improve maintainability of the core library. But I'm not sure we have any sort of date for an end of maintenance. And maybe I mean, as part of some projects I'm working on related to DevTools and the Vue UI successor, maybe there will be like a new migration path from Vue CLI to Vite in the not too distant future. But until then, maybe we don't want to drop it just yet, you know. So yeah, but if you are creating a new project, definitely check out Vite and Create Vue app, which are really nice.
Cool. Thank you. Eduardo, anything you want to add there?
No, honestly, Soda T is the one I think maintaining the Vue CLI now. So he will be the one to know. And if there is anything, it should be on the GitHub repository anyway. But I honestly don't know when is the maintenance supposed to end.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Will Vue support inserting SVGs in a template directly instead of using an image tag out of box, as opposed to using third-party library like Vite SVG loader?
I would say it already works. So I think this might require more code context.
Yeah.
You can already copy paste the content of SVG inside.
Yeah, I already did that a few times, and I didn't encounter any issue about that. So yeah, maybe maybe we
That
need
one's
some
an
more
easy
context
one.
on
All
that.
right.
Yeah, that's a very specific question.
Oh, okay. This one. Svelte writable stores versus Pinia stores. Pinia? I would think Pinia, but stores, what are your thoughts? Which wins and why?
There is no really win. Svelte writables are more comparable to the Vue composition API, so to Rev and Reactive. So if you go with that analogy, then you just have to read the why use Pinia in documentation, and it lists all the differences, mostly SSR and plugins. But yeah, I think this is the most asked question. I probably answer it, or I see a link shared every day. And so it's written in the documentation.
It's basically composition API versus Pinia store, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, the like Svelte seems to be really going into the same direction than Vue 3 composition API. So it looks pretty similar, I think.
Very cool. Thank you. All right. Should we upgrade our projects to Pinia instead of Vuex, and is Vuex be dropped soon?
Well, it depends what you understand by dropped. I think that if you're migrating from Vue 2 to Vue 3, you should use Vuex 4 first and then adapt to Pinia on the go and coexist both for some time. It depends on how much logic you have into it. It might be also a good occasion to revisit the technical depth you have, but Vuex per se is not getting dropped. It is just feature complete, like it's not receiving new features. If there are security fixes to add, they will be added, if I'm not mistaken, but that was the idea.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Any chance Vue.js release a any chance Vue release a dev tool only component as Nuxt 3 did? Wow, that took like 3 tries to get that one
out. I never heard about the dev only component. I would say unlikely.
Yeah, I mean it's basically a component that doesn't render if process env node env is different than development, I guess, or is equal to production. But I'm not sure that we really want to add dependencies to node APIs in the core library, you know. So maybe it's another good fit to be added in the core API of Vue. And since I've never written one by hand, but it doesn't sound too complicated to create in userland. And
yeah. Well, looking at the code, the source code of Nuxt right now, dev only is also it also has a build part, so it cannot be added into Vue itself. It has to be through a Vite plugin or something. And it doesn't surprise me because you need to remove that part where you build into production.
Yeah.
So this cannot be added to Vue itself.
You don't want to ship that what's inside it, right? Yeah. In production, I guess. So
the code is pretty small though.
Yeah, I'm not sure it will ever be included in core.
All right, thank you.
To be honest.
Next question. What are the most important advantages to using Pinia instead of, for example, using composables with global state?
Yeah, this is again the why use Pinia in documentation. I shared the link already in the chat, so I think it's good.
Okay, good. That does make it easier. All right. When using Vue Apollo, can you run both Apollo options and Apollo composable in the same application? Why did you decide to split packages based on APIs?
So yeah, actually you can. You can use both of them, and it's especially useful if you are if you have a legacy application in Option API, and if you want to migrate to the Composition API. You don't have to migrate everything to Vue the Composition API version of Vue Apollo. But yeah, you can install both of them in the same project. Make sure to use the correct versions for Vue 3, for example. And why I decided to split them, it's basically making my life easier because I have everything. Like since those are implemented very differently, it basically makes me it makes it easier to maintain having 2 different packages rather than one, basically. So yeah, I think we got some additional context on the SVG question from some time ago, and the question was apparently about importing an SVG into a Vue component instead of inlining the SVG in the template, and then being able to render it in the component instead of using an image tag, basically. And I think the answer is that if you are able to import the SVG as source code instead of URL, you can then use the vhtml directive to output, to basically insert new nodes into the DOM and basically the SVG nodes. And if you are using Vite, you can do that by adding an annotation to the import statement to tell Vite that you want to import the raw version of the SVG. So I'm not sure if I remember, but I think you can just add a question mark on raw, RAW, to your import statement, and instead of giving you the URL, it will basically output the entire content, text content of the SVG, and then you can do whatever you want with it, including embedding it into the HTML of your component. So
Great.
I guess
Thank you.
that's answering the question.
Yeah, going back to that one. All right, next question. Is there a map infographic of all the ecosystems with the different libraries organized based on functionality? If there is, I'd want to see it too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I would like to see it too. I don't think
Yeah.
there is one. We have a few websites or the Vue Awesome
Yeah.
repositories, right? But they are not infographic or map oriented.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good idea. And a while back, I experimented with a website which was about creating packages into different frameworks categories, which was called Awesome.js, and that's something that's one of the projects I've been working on in the background. It's a new reboot of this, and maybe it could be cool to also have kind of a visual way to explore an ecosystem. That's a very nice idea.
Thank you. Okay, and that does sound pretty cool. Next question. Will the Vite CLI support SPQ and PWAs? If so, when?
Not sure to understand what is SPQ.
I think it's SPA with a typo. No.
Or maybe.
No, it has to be something. No, it has to be something else. SPQ. What is SPQ? Single page. Should we ask ChatGPT? What is SPQ?
Yeah,
what about the PWAs? We'll skip that part.
Potato
What about the PWAs?
Yeah.
I thought PWAs were supported by Vue CLI. You need a plugin.
Yeah.
It's not like something you just like PWA true. Progressive web apps are much more complex than just setting a flag. So you have to assess that there is some work to do on your part if you want to create a PWA that makes sense. Unless your application is full static, in which case you can indeed automate PWA very easily, like documentation, for example. But if you have an application with data fetching, with calls, creating data, you have to find mechanism to replicate that data locally, then coordinate back. You have a lot of work to do to make that a PWA. If you really want, what you want is to create a PWA to just make your score better on Lighthouse, I would just discourage you to do it. It doesn't. At the end, I don't see that many. Honestly, I rarely see progressive web apps that are good. In my experience, I see very few.
And we talked yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if like for your application, it's unless it's a very simple and static application. Well, not, in that case, not really an application, but otherwise, I think in most projects, doing a PWA is like a real project inside your project, and you need to think about it. And there are a lot of really good tools to help you with that, but I don't think we can automate, you know, a lot of things except maybe making your static parts available offline, for example. But I guess and I think there are probably I don't remember, but I think there are plugins about for example integrating Workbox, I think it's called, um, with Vue CLI. So yeah, and
All
I think it's a similar case for Vite. And if you really want to add PWA capabilities to your application, I think you need to use Vite plugins or external libraries to help you, but I don't think there will be a way to like make it automatically PWA, you know, because I'm not sure that's just a web manifest is going to be enough to be a real PWA. So yeah.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Next question. Is Vuex ORM still going to be maintained, knowing that Vuex ORM will end at version 4?
Not the maintainer. I think Kia was the maintainer of Vuex-ORM, and I think another guy picked up the work of Vuex-ORM and migrated it to Pinia. And I think when I last talked with Kia about it, that he reached out to Kia, but Kia is a bit busy lately, so he hasn't done anything in that regard. Personally, I didn't use Vuex-ORM, so I would say there is a Pinia ORM if you want. And I've seen another question about this, like saying that if it was maintained, and I think that it is maintained, but you should ask the author. Maybe it's feature complete and they don't need to add any new feature, and maybe it has no bugs, right?
That would be amazing.
Well, there is a point. If you don't add features, you cannot add bugs. So
Yes. Yes. All right. Next question. What are some of your favorite UI frameworks for Vue 3 today?
The last one I've been using is Nuxt UI, and it's really nice. But yeah, I don't usually use one, and because like at work we have in-house one, and in most of my projects I don't really use one. I don't really need one. But yeah, I think like I really like those which are tailored around Tailwind CSS or CSS, because that's the CSS frameworks that I'm used to. But yeah, there's I think there are too many of them so to like try all of them. Especially since I'm not building a lot of user-facing apps apart from at work, and we're not using one of them. So yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, I don't build many others. The last I used was Daisy UI. That was nice. I don't know if it's up to date. Prime View also looks nice indeed for customizing. And Beautify will always be one to go very fast. You have a lot of things you can build. But I like the custom path too. Like if you want to create outstanding front-end applications, you go custom CSS anyway. So you start with maybe some of these, which have a few components, not too much, and then you really create custom things in CSS.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to it's nice seeing more and more unstyled UI like component frameworks, because it's really allows you to focus on your own visual identity and less about all of the integrates of all the the issues you need to, or use cases you need to handle regarding accessibility and keyboard navigation or all that stuff. So So yeah, and I think there are more and more of them. Like Nuxt is basically installed but with presets, and there's Radix, a version of Radix for Vue, which looks really promising. But yeah, I really like this approach, and even more because it plays nice with Tailwind and the kind of CSS framework. So yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I like this question. As Vue Core team veterans, how have you seen the team evolve? Does collaboration now flow smoother due to experience, streamlined processes, or better mutual understanding?
I think, we got better at, we got better organized, and especially compared to like the Vue 1 or Vue 2 time, beginning of Vue 2, it was a little bit chaotic on Slack, um, and yeah, we didn't have any ritual or stuff like that, but we experimented with a bunch of things. So I think at some point we had a standard bot on Slack, um, but then when we moved to Discord, we changed that, and we instead uh, set up a ritual every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
To have a meeting with anyone from the team that can attend and post updates and ask questions directly. But yeah, I mean, it's been a while, and obviously some people left and some people were added to the team, and we're very grateful for all the contributions, that people left for us, um, and then I've been very, very happy to be part of this team, um, and yeah, I think for a big scale open source project, it's pretty smooth, and yeah, we're able to communicate with. Nowadays it's pretty easy to communicate, and I think um, we favor asynchronous communication because we all have different kind of time zones,
have to.
and it's pretty difficult to have a meeting every day with everyone, um, so yeah, and I guess so.
Yeah, what I can add is that people give what they can in terms of time. There is no expectation.
Yeah.
And what is great is also not just the team, but the people who are in the ecosystem that are also building great things. And sometimes we don't. I think we talk about it, like libraries. Like what makes a framework great at the end, in the end, is the ecosystem. So having what is the adjective? Talent, talented people working on libraries that work for Vue, like for example Tres or UI libraries, Qtify, Prime. This is what makes also easier for the team to focus on the things that are core, like Vue, router, etc. And it's also nice to have the discussions with these people who are talented, because sometimes they find bugs and they report them, and usually the reports are high quality also. And it may sound a bit abstract, but if we want to give you an example, it might mean they submit directly a PR, which is amazing. They submit failing test cases, or they submit detailed reports. So not only they have a boil down reproduction, but they also dig down a little bit where the source of the problem is, and maybe they didn't manage to, in their time they have, to fix the issue, but they give more information so that some people on the team, or even people who are not on the team, can take it from there and fix it. So I think that with the team evolving, what I've seen is more people around the team in the ecosystem, and I think that's the coolest part, in my opinion. The team is more streamlined, I think, yes, but it hasn't evolved that much in the past years. I feel, I don't know how you feel about it, Guillaume, but I feel like we reach some kind of plateau in terms of streamline and smooth communication.
Yeah, I mean, we are. I don't think we feel any pressure, any corporate pressure to, I mean, it's a very different environment from a company, and it's really um, like open-minded and like oriented to free time, and it's like um, yeah, it's like if we want to say something to the team, we just do it, and we don't have any obligation, and we don't have any pressure to do a lot of meetings and a lot of communication. Um, but yeah, I mean, since it's not baked by a big company, it's entirely true that Vue.js is mostly made with all of the contributors, to either the core libraries or the the ecosystem, which is very important, as Eduardo mentioned. But yeah, I mean, from 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 the point of view of the core team, um, I mean, we are just a small part of what makes Vue great. So yeah, I mean, a lot of communication happens outside of the the you know the private core team channels and stuff like that.
And a follow-up question on this, because it does sound like there's a lot of trust built on being a part of the team, and especially with the way it's grown. Is what are the requirements on becoming a Vue team core member, and like how do you make the important decisions as a team?
I think the requirement was someone in the team nominates you, and then there are a few people who upvote the decision. Usually, this means that people are already contributing as if they were a member of the team, and that's when
To
someone says, "Oh, we should add them to the chat." It's honestly, it's just
yeah,
it's just
it's
that it's
very
doing too much as a
informal.
title. Yeah, it's more we are in a chat and then we can just discuss more easily.
Yeah,
We don't give it too much importance. I mean,
no,
personally, I don't give it too much importance to the title. I think some people enjoy the recognition it comes with it, and I think that's also one of the points, is like being recognition by your peers, I think. And about important decisions, well, we'll have to define important decisions, but I think we discuss about it. And if there is anything important, and we brainstorm. So, for example, if to give an example, I would what I consider important decision, when there was the RFC with the composition API that was deciding to deprecate the option API. There was a lot of backslash, and so it was discussed a lot internally, and we would just bring it up very often and bring different points of view internally, and also communicate differently. So we just discuss, usually offline, and sometimes also, well, I mean, usually asynchronous, sorry, via messages, and sometimes we bring it up in the bi-weekly meetings that we do.
That sounds like you got everything with for that one. So how long have both of you been core team members?
I need to
I think
check
it's 7 or
dates.
6 years. Yeah, I think it's 7 or 6 years.
Okay.
Maybe more than that.
How
More than that, I
Probably
how
think.
more. Are you sure?
Yeah, yeah, because I've been in my current job for 7 years, and uh, yeah,
Sure.
maybe
I think it started in 12.
almost 10
I
years,
mean,
I
in
think.
16.
Yeah,
No. There is no 10 years at core team. It was at least 2016.
yeah, almost. I mean, it was like
Okay,
maybe 8
eight.
years. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
Because I was there from the beginning, and Guillaume was there right. Like, I don't remember how exactly it was, because there was a Slack at the beginning, and you were in the
He
Slack.
was invited to the chat, as what you said.
Okay. Okay. That's amazing. Next question. In large scale Vue applications, does consistently using shallow ref instead of ref lead to significant performance improvements or other notable differences?
It depends on what you mean.
Yeah, I think
When you say
consistently is not the
large
right
scale
word.
application, because if you're talking about having a huge object to handle, it definitely makes a difference, because shallow ref and shallow reactive are gonna be only making like the root value basically reactive. So, and not the nested properties and nested objects. So if you have a very, very big object, it can make a big difference. And basically, the way you use shallow ref is that instead of mutating nested object inside your root object, you're gonna be replacing the entire value of the shallow ref with by making an assignment, and it's gonna trigger the the reactivity system at that point. But yeah, if I mean, you can still create a smaller Vue application that handles big objects from the API, and maybe it can be useful for you. But I'm not sure that just switching all the refs to shallow ref is gonna do much. Even if your application is big, because um, it's more about what's inside your ref that matters um, when you want to make the decision.
Thank you. All right. Next question. When a project has already started a couple months, years ago without Nuxt, would you recommend finding a way to merge the Vue project in Nuxt, and why?
If the team wants, this is the kind of decisions that you make based on a team. I think it's not too hard to migrate a project from Vue to Nuxt. The opposite is not true. So if the team wants for any other features that are specific to Nuxt and that comes with Nuxt, if they want to use Nuxt, then I think it's a good idea to migrate. And I don't think it's too hard also, because you can have an SRC folder as well on a Nuxt project. You don't need the flat structure.
Okay.
But I don't think I have much more
No.
to say.
Yeah, basically Next is making things more convenient and abstract things like declaring all the routes in Vue router. So for example, if you have a non-Nuxt application, you will probably have a file with routes for Vue router, and
You use
that's why
unplugging
it's
the route.
gonna just go away if you switch to Nuxt, because it's gonna use the the file on the directories. But yeah, I guess yeah, going from a vanilla Vue application to Nuxt is doable, but yeah, the opposite is gonna be a lot of more work. And uh, and if you don't see any benefit for your team going to migrate towards Nuxt, I don't see the point. I mean, it's really a matter of yeah, decision, as you said, Dodo. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Is it technically feasible to have a DevTools plugin that lets us view, debug the state of all the composables like Pinia tab?
That's a very good question. Actually, we we thought about this, and um, I think if we want to have this possibility without making any change to your code, it would need a compilation additions to the compilation to instrument your code with kind of hooks to your res and reactive objects. But yeah, it would be quite a lot of work, I think, to handle all of the possible use cases and possible code that we might find in projects. So that's definitely not trivial and a pretty huge project. Um, but if you really need to debug any composable, I guess you can. I think it can be done in userland and using external. Maybe you can use a Pinia store to, store your refs that you want to debug, and then you can see it in DevTools, for example. But yeah, it's a very difficult thing to handle, I think. That's one of the
Yeah.
drawback of the composition API.
I mean, you might do it with a Vite plugin that intercepts all the calls to ref and reactive,
Yeah, maybe.
but
But then
you still
you
need
need
to
to,
transpile all the libraries. So
yeah, and you would need to parse all the code to get to try
the
to guess
names,
the variable names and stuff like
yeah,
that, because I mean, if you have a big list of values without labels, and uh, it's gonna be not very useful in the DevTools. But yeah, it's a very difficult problem to solve, I think.
Thank you both. All right, a few more questions left. What are your thoughts on micro front ends for scaling large Vue
micro frontends.
applications?
Yeah, I think that's micro. Um,
Yeah, I'm not a big fan personally, but I understand that some companies,
yeah,
it does solve some issues. I'm not a big fan because it creates a lot of issues, especially when it comes to routing. So personally, being in that part, it's painful and easy to mess up for the user. I mean, from the developer. Sorry.
Yeah.
yeah, it's. I've never been in a position I needed micro frontends, but in my opinion, yeah, it's not it's like it's not free to implement it, I think. But we see a little bit of technical solutions to that, which are inspired by micro frontends, but it's not entirely that. But for example, um, like in Vitpress, it's gonna be some what we call islands of Vue components rendered on the client to like to improve performance and make the Vitpress site lighter. But I think there are also some work being done on the Nuxt side about this. But yeah, it's not entirely micro frontends. It's like micro frontend is really uh, it's also like a structural change to your projects. You basically create a lot of small applications to make a bigger one. But yeah, it's I mean, it can make sense in a big application where you have a lot of different teams that have different needs and need for example different frameworks or different libraries, and it can make it simpler to just isolate the different parts into micro frontends. But yeah,
Thank
I
you.
don't think it's
Oh,
I don't I just want, in my opinion, I just think that it's not mandatory to be able to maintain um, a very large scale application, and it's a choice of architectural choice, but it's not a silver bullet for large applications.
thank you. Um, all right. Are there any plans to create generic typed components, such as table components, would be beneficial?
No, it's out of scope from Vue. It should be a UI library. or a specific library, but it's autoscope from Vue Core.
That's good
Yeah,
to
I
know.
think so.
All right. Are there any plans to integrate AI into Vue dev tools in the future? Everything AI, right?
Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not that I know of.
Maybe.
Maybe someday.
AI. Yeah,
It's very broad.
you would still need to buy a subscription to an AI provider, because it's still pretty early, I think, and it's still difficult to really like bundle an AI with a local tool or something like that. But maybe there can be
Gigabytes.
plugins that can integrate ChatGPT to the dev tools and stuff like that. So yeah, why not?
All right. Last question. What are your hobbies and interests outside of coding?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, really, yeah, I really like basic things like watching movies and playing video games. I play a lot of video games. Um, but yeah, I really like science fiction movies and books and
What video
um,
games, though?
hmm, uh, so I really like strategy games and also
Okay.
League of Legends and RTS games and adventure games. But yeah, the one I play regularly is League of Legends.
Okay. Very cool. Eduardo, what about you?
I used to play a lot of video games. Now I don't always have the time. I used to play a lot of horror games. I really like third person and FPS horror games. But you need to be in a nice mental state in order to play that. Especially, I
Yeah.
used to do very hard modes like one hit death and stuff like that on hard horror games. Evil Within, Resident Evil, like a few saves, stuff like that. But like looking for the hard achievements. But I don't do that too much anymore. Although I still enjoy it. Other than that, I like cooking. I know Guillaume also likes cooking. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan of
yeah, cooking
seafood.
is fun.
Seafood, but I cook a lot of different things I like experiencing.
Yeah,
And language learning, I like learning languages. Still don't have the time with the
yeah,
baby too much. I was learning Chinese. I've learned Portuguese and some Japanese too, but
yeah.
Chinese
Just
was more
very,
interesting for me right now.
very recently started learning Japanese, and yeah, it's fun. A lot of
That's
fun.
awesome. Well, thank you both for joining today. And since you both started learning Japanese, at least a little bit, can you both say goodbye in Japanese?
A bite?
Good.
Jane.
Bye.
Bye. Bye is Johnny.
Yeah,
O
Jane.
sayonara. But yeah.
All right. Lovely, lovely. Well, thank you both for joining today. We greatly appreciate it. And yes, we will see you hopefully again at next Vue Nation. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.